everybody. Welcome to the Mbira Guru celebration. My name is Blessing Blade Chimanga, hashtag Coach Blade, and I'm so excited again this year to be hosting and co-producing and coming together with friends from all over the world as we celebrate Mbira Month 2022. And of course, this year, Mbira Guru celebrations are brought to you by Kutandara and Dreams TV. And so far, you've already seen one amazing concert that we had. And for the next 6 hours, it's going to be music and conversation. And right now, for this amazing conversation, I'm joined by my brother, one of Zimbabwe's rising stars and rising amazing Mbira legends of our time, and that is Tavadzwa Matiure. Hey Tavi, thank you for coming through, man.
Did you say my surname right?
Yes, Matiure.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and we are also joined by our executive director at Kutandara. Super excited to have a fresh from Zimbabwe. I think this is the first broadcast that we are bringing this lovely one, fresh from Zimbabwe. Amy Stewart McIntosh.
I'm super excited to be here with you guys. You're making me homesick.
Yeah, it's good to have you, and thank you so much for being with us today on this online crazy conversation that we're about to have. So, ladies and gentlemen, for this conversation, we are talking about how Mbira is now affecting the young people. And I just want to actually dive straight with you, Amy, to talk about how this instrument is being received by the young people in the US.
Yeah, Blad, thanks for that. It's actually super exciting for, someone like me who's from the US, who fell in love with Zimbabwean music many years ago. I think 25 years ago. I know I don't look that old. To see it really now taking root in our young people. And I think one of the big things that happened that started to water and nurture that seed was taking some young people to Zimbabwe this year. We had 6 teenagers that we took to Zimbabwe in July. And, we've been teaching marimba and mbira for a long time here in the US. And marimba is just so attractive. It's easy. You can play a song in, 20 minutes. It's just like energetic, but mbira is a lot different. It's deeper. It takes, some real presence of mind. It takes commitment. It takes diligence. You really have to want to play mbira to be able to play mbira well. And so, although a lot of our young people for years have been hearing about mbira or seeing their teachers play mbira or enjoying visiting artists playing mbira, they didn't really get bit by that mbira bug until they were in Zimbabwe and saw the cultural context in which the music happens. And now, since we've been back, I think we've been back 7 weeks, we're already, one of our teen performing groups is already performing an mbira piece as part of their show. And that's because they wanted to do it. There's no way to make people play mbira if they don't want to. And Takapanga, you'll see later in this Mbira Guru celebration, they're starting to be able to play and play well together. And we've got people playing hosho, people singing. So I'm just so excited for them to have gotten to see the cultural context where the music comes from and get excited about doing it themselves here in Boulder.
Wow. And I mean, you have touched a lot of points that I'm going to come back to you about. But let me go to Tavi. Tavi, you are currently teaching in schools, and you're also doing private lessons from Mbira, especially with young people. What is your take as a Zimbabwean Mbira player? Do you think our generation is starting to warm up to the instrument? Do you think we are preserving the culture of the instrument?
I was about to actually say that at first it wasn't really accepted the way it's supposed to be, but I feel like our generation is really warming up to it, and people are beginning to become almost curious about how Mbira music is all about. Like, I've been recently teaching Mbira at Zimbabwe College of Music, class, and it seems like they're really curious about the meaning of the songs to do with Mbira. You know, like what exactly does Imam Sasa mean? Like what exactly does Taireva mean? What exactly does Bugatiende, Bangiza, and all those songs? What does it really mean? Like people are now more and more curious about it, and you get to see more commercial artists wanting to infuse Mbira music into their genres, which really is a positive way to deal with it. And yeah, I feel like people are really warming up to it, and there's definitely plenty more to come. I mean, I've just produced with the help of my producer Bled. We have just come up with the Mbira Explosion, where we are really like putting the Mbira out there. It's called the Mbira Explosion album. We are really putting the Mbira music out there, and we're getting so many genres included, and people are really excited about it. And we, in a way that I'm really feeling like, oh my gosh, like, is this really happening? Am I like gonna be like responsible when it comes to putting this whole thing out there, you know? So it's pretty exciting, but I still feel like more needs to be done in terms of enlightening people about what Mbira music is all about. Yeah.
But Tavi, when you say that the kids are getting excited, what do you think is the exciting force right now? And why I'm asking this question is, for example, we have most of our US people watching right now, and I think it would be interesting for them to know that in the motherland where the instrument comes from, what is actually exciting the young people right now. And maybe that can also be an inspiration to the young people that are playing in the US.
Well, I think it's something to do with our genes, our DNA.
Okay.
It's more to do with us as Zimbabweans than it is to do with activities motivating Mbira music so that young kids are actually attracted to it. Like, I feel like it's just like us getting back to our roots, but using the different generation. And you get to realize that some of these kids, they're really excited about the melodies, and some of them actually take the Western musical terms like the pentatonic scale, and they say, oh my goodness, this song is in a pentatonic scale. And I'm like, what? How did you know that? Like, you know, but then again, it's just based on our DNA, despite the capacity that we have to give them the knowledge about Mbira music. You know, it's more spiritual and more to do with our regions than it is about anything else.
Well, we are actually in a couple of hours from now gonna be talking about the Mbira and the spirit. So, ladies and gentlemen, please do join us later on for the next conversation. Tafi has already started to talk about it, but we're gonna go deep into it about the Mbira and the spirit. Over to you, Amy. What do you think we can do more as a community of music to promote the instrument of Mbira to the next generation? I mean, for someone like you and Randy, David, Elena, Claire, just naming a few that I know, you have already been touched by this instrument that has changed your life. What do you think we can do more for the next generation to experience what you have experienced?
It's such a great question, Bled. When Taffy was talking, I was thinking the one thing he didn't mention, because I think he's too humble, is that I think the reason that young people are getting more and more excited about Mbira in Zimbabwe is because they're starting to have younger role models to look up to. I think that Taffy underestimates the impact that he has as a young Zimbabwean man who's like embraced his culture and is like digging deep, like, what is my culture about, and where do I come from, and what is the music of my people? And I think that Taffy, you get to take some credit for the inspiration that you are to younger people in Zimbabwe. I saw it. I mean, at Reps Theater, when you performed the Nyunga Nyunga piece you performed, the audience went crazy. And they were Zimbabweans. You know, the audience in the US goes crazy when you perform here, but that's because we've already fallen in love with Mbira music. But yeah, so I just wanted to give a shout out to Taffy and other young men and women in Zimbabwe who are playing the instrument, playing it well. I mean, we're seeing some of them in this Mbira Guru celebration concert here, but there are so many others that we weren't able to film for this particular concert. But there's so many young people who are acting as great role models. And I think really bridging the gap between Kumusha life and city life, right? So Mbira is not just for the elders in Kumusha. Mbira music is for everyone. It's for Blacks, it's for whites, it's for people who live rurally, it's for people who live in urban areas, it's for people all around the world. And I think Erica Azim says it best when she says, Mbira music is for the healing of everyone, our ancestors, but also those who are living, for all humans. So, I mean, I said earlier, I think Mbira music is really tricky to play well, but I think you need to, you know, before you want to play it, you need to like the sound of it. And so some of the things, you know, that I see some of the younger musicians in Zimbabwe doing that I think are working really well is making that sound accessible by playing with drum set, by playing with electric bass, by playing with keyboards, and making, you know, that more of a pop sound that Thomas Mapfumo or Oliver Mutukudzi popularized, like keeping the Mbira alive in those traditions, help people hear the sound of it because it is such a unique sound. And the more people have that sound in their ears, then the more they can get curious about it. So I just think we're doing a good job. We're all doing a good job, and we have to keep doing what we're doing, which is playing Mbira and playing Mbira for one another, and inviting people to hear Mbira that haven't heard it before. So thanks for all of you that you both do to promote Mbira music. And thank you for your friendship in music. And we're just so happy to get to know you guys and be with you.
Well, thank you, Amy. I mean, you're already getting emotional. I'm not yet closing the show. Okay, I'm not yet closing the show. I still got 2 more questions for you guys. But thank you for giving that shout out. I'm coming back to you, Taffy. With now the diverse sound. I mean, I like the aspect that you said, you know, already in the country we have you and many others that are, you know, bringing the different genres. But one thing I've realized, okay, so let me come out in the open, guys. Me, I am not a Mbira player. I can't put myself under Mbira player. I know 1 or 2 things, and I know Randy wants to kill me for that, but I just didn't major in Mbira. I got to major more in Mariba, but I appreciate the sound of Mbira. I just needed to come out of the open. But Taffy, here's a question for you now. I see a lot of young people, especially in Zimbabwe, they are playing more of the Nyunga Nyunga and not the other types of Mbira. And it's so wild that in America, they're playing a lot of Nare and not a lot of Nyunga Nyunga. What is your take on that? What is the story? What makes that difference be visible and be there?
So it's actually quite a long story, but then I'll try and cut it really short. So, you know, the basic Yunga Yunga Mbira instrument that we have is the most widely known in primary schools, high schools that provide music lessons, and also tertiary institutions like teachers' colleges, where they groom teachers who then go and teach in those secondaries and primary schools. They normally get the Nyunga Nyunga, and it's only in specific music schools like the Zimbabwe College of Music and Maryland State University where they begin to bring in other types of Mbira. But the main issue that I actually analyzed and realized is that our instrument, especially the nare, is normally orally taught, especially in institutions, and you have to be a relative of Mbira guru to be able to know how to play that instrument. Which we have people like the late Cosmas Magaya, who really tried to bring in the nare music into a theoretical perspective where people have to actually study it in schools and stuff like that. And this has just recently happened. And he's like one of the pioneers I can actually say, as far as I'm concerned, is the first who has tried to really like spread it out there, which is in a non-oral way. Otherwise, you have to learn it in an oral perspective. And sometimes it's based on where you come from. Like, for example, my family, how I got to play Nare is because of my uncle, who's the little brother to my dad, who plays it. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have known what it is all about. I wouldn't have tried and connected myself to all these other Mbira groups like Toro Art Center and Mbira Zenarira, who also played the Nare. So yeah, I feel like the only reason why people like in the United States are able to really play Nare is because of the oral tradition that was brought to them, and not to miss out the fact that the Nare instrument is more complex, but very, very interesting and fun to play compared to the Nyunga Nyunga, you know. So if you're playing it to somebody who doesn't know both of the instruments, they would automatically choose the Nyunga Nyunga because it's got more space to play around with the keys and stuff like that. So I feel like that's the most, despite the educational part, that's the most complicated thing about this whole scenario.
Wow, you explained it well about it. I've always wondered what's the story there, because definitely you find the Nare being so popular here, and most of the compositions are being done. Sorry, the Nyunga Nyunga being so popular, and most of the compositions and recordings are on the Nyunga Nyunga. Coming to you, Amy, what have been some of your best moments playing the Mbira? One, your best moments. Two, some shout outs to some of the Mbira players you have played with. As we are here, like we said, we are celebrating.
Yeah.
What have been some of your best moments?
Well, I want to piggyback on what Taffy said about the, you know, the different balance of the types of Mbiras in different places. And I was going to also say, you know, the reason that we in the US have any knowledge of the Nare at all is primarily because of the teachers who've traveled here and traveled here over and over and over, and that we Americans have real relationships with. And like Taffy said, one of those people, really important teacher, especially for Randy and myself at Kutandara, was Sekuru Cosmas Magaya. And, you know, we just had years of interaction with him here in Zimbabwe, but mostly here in the US. And, you know, it is such a personal instrument, like Taffy said. If he hadn't, you know, if his uncle hadn't been a Nare player, then he wouldn't have had that connection. And the same thing was true for us. If we hadn't met Sekuru Cosmas Magaya, we wouldn't have probably had access to that instrument either. And, you know, several other Mbira players that have come to the States over the years, Musiki Wachingodza comes to mind, Jacob Mafuleni comes to mind. Of course, when Taffy's dad was staying with us, he was primarily working with us on marimba and Nyunga Nyunga. And so that's like the only reason I even know a little bit about Nyunga Nyunga was because of Dr. Shisbi Matiure. So what Taffy said is really true about the relationship piece. You know, I would say like one of the moments that stands out to me as just being so powerful was the first time that Randy and I traveled back to Zimbabwe after the passing of Sekuru Cosmas Magaya, sitting in the kitchen hut on the bench with Mudavanu Magaya and playing Mbira with him and seeing his dad in Muda's hands. Like Muda has become such an amazing player and vessel for all of the content and stories and lineage of his father. And, you know, it was like in that moment and visiting the grave and talking with the family that I did get to really feel like Cosmas is still really with us. He's still here and he lives on through those of us whose lives he's touched, but especially his son, Mudavanu. Muda.
Shout out to
So
Muda.
yeah, that comes to mind. Yeah,
Thank you.
there's a way that Cosmas held his mouth while he was playing, with his lips apart a little and his just like a certain way. And Muda makes that same face when he plays. And it's just really beautiful to see the lineage is alive.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for that, for sharing that, Amy. And ladies and gentlemen, yeah, it's sad to say we are coming to the end of our conversation, but it's because we want to make room for you to get a glass of water or a glass of wine or a glass of drink or get some snacks as you prepare to come and watch our second concert that's coming in a few minutes' time. So it's been awesome talking to Amy and Taffy and just talking about what Mbira is starting to do in our in the new generation. And that's really key for me because I think both the centers, Kutandara, Dreams, and what Taffy is doing, it's all about now the next generation, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. So it was cool to have this conversation. But stay with us because we've got a concert coming up shortly. We also have another discussion that we're gonna have. I don't want to tell you the guests that, but we're having them in the next hour, and we're gonna be talking about the Mbira and the spirit. And I'm excited about it because they all come from a different direction, and I'm coming from a different direction. I don't know how long that discussion is gonna take, but we're gonna be like talking through about the Mbira and the spirit and where the Mbira is allowed and where it's not allowed and all those kind of stuff. So stay tuned. Tell your friends that we've got 6 hours of Mbira music. But before we go, let me talk to ask Taffy to just give any words of I don't want to say inspiration, any Mbira words to the Mbira lovers that are watching today.
I wish I had that scripted. All I have to say is Mbira music is such a beautiful type of music, especially the instruments. I mean, already we have more than 15 types of instruments in this country alone, and we're here just talking about two. Imagine if we knew all the other ones in terms of their rhythms and their sound, their distortions, their texture, everything. Mbira music has got a lot for us, and the sky is just the limit. We just need to keep on researching. So all I have to say is brace yourself for another generation that is just going to bring you mind-blowing rhythms, mind-blowing polyrhythms, mind-blowing poly melodies. Just expect an explosion. That's all.
Wow. Thank you, Taffy. Thank you so much. And we look forward to your Mbira Explosion album as well, because we know that you're one of the game changers that are bringing this new generation of sound. And to you, Amy, I want you to give me two messages. One is going to your fellow Americans that play Mbira or that want to play Mbira, and one message is going to the Zimbabweans that you play Mbira with. Any words, any Mbira words to them as we celebrate Mbira Guru.
Yeah. I mean, I know exactly what I'd like to say to both of those groups. What I'd love to say to the Americans who are curious about Mbira is things that are difficult are worthwhile. So don't give up just because it's like a little hard. It takes a different frame of mind to learn to play Mbira. You need to have, a long attention span and determination, and don't give up because it's worth it. What I want to say to Zimbabweans is you have an amazing cultural jewel. Don't lose it. Period.
That hit me hard as well. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Taffy. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been our discussion as we celebrate the Mbira Guru celebration, part of the Mbira month celebrations that we have. And I think Taffy started a very interesting conversation that maybe we should bring in a couple of weeks, the types and the different Mbiras that we have in the country. And maybe let me see what I would do from my end to see if we can bring that as a show to you of the different Mbiras we have in the country. But otherwise, thank you for joining me, Akutandara and Dreams TV. Do go and follow us on all our social media platforms, on Facebook and on YouTube. And as well, ladies and gentlemen, all the artists you're watching tonight gave their time to do a pre-recording for you. So if you have any donations, please do send to our PayPal. The details are right there on our comment section on all both platforms that we are streaming. Please do send a donation, and we are going to share all the donations to the artists that have been part of this Mbira Guru celebration stream. To Kutandara and everybody watching, my name is Blessing Blechimanga. We love you, and please stay tuned for our next action, which is concept number 2 coming soon.